I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. My parents immigrated from the former Yugoslavia, and now that war has broken that area apart into 6 different countries: Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, Serbia, Montenegro, and Macedonia. But when I was a kid, it was called Yugoslavia, and all my relatives were over there, and all my relatives are still over there. So we spent a lot of time going back and forth. And whenever I was there, I never felt Serbian enough. And then we would come back home to Chicago, and I never felt American enough. I felt like I didn't belong in either place. And as a result, I became a chameleon, switching identities, switching between my different identities depending on where I was and who I was with. Books were my refuge. And when I was growing up, all the books that we read were written by dead white men and Western men, so a very small slice of the pie culturally. So I never saw myself represented in any of the books that I was reading, and that was really hard. Until I got to UW. My freshman year, I took a literature class with Professor Betsy Drain, and she introduced me to 2 of my all-time favorite books: Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God, and Louise Erdrich's Love Medicine. So back then, Zora Neale Hurston wasn't very well known yet. This was a long time before Oprah made her book into a movie. And so these were newer books, and they were a huge shift from how I'd grown up and what I'd been taught. And you know what? Those 2 books changed everything for me. For the first time in my life, I felt a sense of recognition when I read those books. And even though I'm from a different culture, I felt seen. It showed me that it was possible to read a book about someone like me who was caught between cultures and who felt like she didn't belong. And I'd always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't think it was possible until I read those books and I saw that it was actually a possibility. I saw a part of myself represented in those books. So fast forward a few years. Remember how I told you that for most of my life, I felt like I didn't belong? Well, it turns out that that being in between cultures was actually my superpower, because it allows me to see things that other people don't see. So for example, when my mother died, I wanted to learn how to grieve consciously, but I didn't really know how to do it because we don't have here in the US, we don't really have a culture of grief. And then I remember those childhood summers in the former Yugoslavia where my families followed grieving rituals and community came together and supported us and held us. And I knew that it could be different, right? And so I wrote a book about that. I wrote a book about my experience, and it's called The Secret Life of Grief. That's what the gift of being in between cultures taught me. Now, even though your circumstances are probably very different from mine, I'm guessing that you have your own superpower that comes from the very real challenges you've had to navigate. Now, how do I know that? Well, according to scientists, the odds that you are here, the odds that you are even born, are 1 in 400 trillion. 1 in 400 trillion. You are a freaking miracle, right? Every single person here, every one of you here, everyone watching on the live stream. And you know what? There is no one who is exactly like you, who sees the world through your eyes with your experiences. And by that, I mean all of your experiences, right? That is what makes you unique. It's your secret sauce and it's your magic. So don't hide who you are, because the world needs your specific gifts now more than ever.